All right. So next up, we've got Mitch Martinez. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Mitch, and what we're talking about and what we worked with today was bullet time projects. I have a bullet time company called Orbital EXP, um, and we've done mostly commercial projects all over the world. Uh, Projects for Prada, the NFL, the NHL, Apple, Meta, Disney on Ice, Saturday Night Live, tons of different stuff.
Awesome.
The majority of what I do is cinematography. Uh, to be clear, quite honestly, and I'm super honored to be on with all of you, your true artists and inspirations. I would not define myself in any way as a light painter, but I'm more than happy to talk about, what we've done on this project and all that sort of stuff because I don't want to insult anyone who does light painting.
And
Um,
you know,
I
I
know how much effort it takes, how much effort it took for this specific project, how much time everyone puts into their craft and their art, and I respect it immensely. Had there been a larger budget, I would have been reaching out to people to bring them on to this specific project to collaborate. Yeah, so a lot of what the bullet time stuff is a lot of commercial work because that's where the budgets that can afford bullet time align.
where are you located at?
So I'm based in the Philadelphia suburbs, so that's on the East Coast, a couple hours from New York in the USA.
Okay. You'll definitely after this have to. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with Johnny Griffin, but he's that one too that claims that not be a light painter. He's a tool maker. But
Mm.
but yeah. So you guys share that similarity with what you said. He was the first one that I was thinking of when you were explaining that. But how long have you been light painting, and how did not necessarily how long you've been light painting, but how did you first discover light painting?
Yeah, so the first time I did anything, in terms of the bullet time work, my origins with any of this stuff kind of coincide. In I want to say 2012, 2013, was it Patrick Rochon and I want to say maybe Eric Perret collaborated on that light painting bullet time project. And that kind of like really caught my engagement. I was at a point in my career where I needed to do something bigger than just standard cinematography. And I was debating between UAV drone stuff, which was not what the UAV drone stuff is now. It was not affordable. It was super expensive and it was super risky.
Right.
I was looking into underwater stuff and same thing. It was not affordable. It was not accessible and it was super risky. So the bullet time stuff kind of seemed like the safest path. And a part of me thought, well, it's a bunch of cameras. How hard could it possibly be?
Right.
And then I found out it's not easy. There's a lot to consider. There's a lot of logistical issues, but once you get to a certain point, it's past the point of no return. And, you either take a loss or you find a way to make it work. And so, me and the people that I've worked with found a way to make it work and create some great imagery.
Absolutely. Well, I think for our viewers, everybody knows that we're going to be talking and discussing about bullet time. So let me share my screen here, and we'll show some stuff that you've been working on. We're going to jump right into this. So I guess the work that you did was for the University of Oklahoma. Can you tell us the backstory here about how this project was started and brought to life? Was this idea that you did you reach out to the University of Oklahoma? Did they reach out to you? How did this project come about?
So, 9 times out of 10, actually 99 out of 100, it starts with a phone call from the client, from an agency, from a producer. Sometimes it's several steps removed. So like when I worked for Apple or Meta, they hire an agency. The agency hires a production company. The production company hires, their vendors and their freelancers and all that sort of stuff. This was working directly with the University of Oklahoma, but it always it started with a phone call, or an email maybe or something. But they, you know, they reached out and said, "Hey, we have this idea. We want to know if it's feasible. We don't expect it to be super inexpensive, but we'd love to try to do it. And let's have a conversation." And a lot of times that's how a lot of projects come to life with the bullet time world, is that it starts with an email or a phone call. And sometimes it's a bidding producer, sometimes it's a producer itself, um sometimes it's a production company, sometimes it's the direct client, but it's almost never to the direct client.
So tell us this. So with this particular project, the centerpiece is what we're looking at on the screen here, this trophy, um, as the main subject for this bullet time work you did. Tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, so uh the University of Oklahoma, they have the they have won the national championship 6 out of the past 9
Oh,
years.
wow.
Um and they're just absolutely crushing it. It's very interesting to see the quality of content and athleticism that is happening with these colleges, that if you're not tuned into it, um and then you look it up on even just YouTube, just watch the competitions on YouTube or something, and I was just like, okay, this is just as impressive to me as Simone Biles, or any, just other top tier. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think one of the athletes from University of Oklahoma made it to the Olympic team for USA, if I'm
Wow,
not
awesome.
mistaken. But they're absolutely world class. The athleticism is absurd. And so they wanted to, 6 years out of nine, 6 years out, it's either 6 years out of 9 or 10, um, that they've absolutely just dominated and won. They're a legacy. Um, they're a franchise. They're everything that you could want from a pro team.
So your setup for this project is absolutely impressive. With the rig that you have set up, how many cameras are you using to create the work? What types of cameras? And
Yeah.
is there a setup? Was this set up at the University of Oklahoma?
So we worked out of my studio in the Philadelphia suburbs. They did send a team to work with me on the specific imagery, and kind of come out, um, and give in their handful of their input. And so basically, that's my studio. Pardon the mess in the background. Um,
You knew we were
but
coming.
yeah, but so I have a handful of different camera options and lensing options with the bullet time systems and everything. This was Canon DSLRs. And for the project, we actually used two different sets of lenses, because I ended up doing two different focal lengths for the thing. So we had 150 millimeter lensing for tight shots, and then also 41 millimeter for the full head to toe for the bullet time shots, for the full trophy.
What
And then, of course, we did this single camera stuff as well.
Yeah, and that was the rig that you designed right here is just super impressive. Just that video showing that, just guiding away. It's so smooth, and the result is just fantastic,
Right? Home Depot special.
right? What light painting brushes tools did you use for this project? And tell us, I'm gonna get over the images, but you made these little star cutouts, and
Yeah.
we were talking about this earlier. The flares that it produced was really awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
Let me show you guys some images. Can you tell us about, the tools that you use, and the star cutouts that you made?
Of course. Yeah. So the primary tool that ended up being the winner was the black fiber optic brush. And then we used some of the color attachment filters as well. I tried a bunch of different things, but situationally, between my skill level and the logistics of 360 degrees and working around a trophy that you don't want to be touching, interacting with, bumping into, or anything like that, the the fiber optic brushes really kind of pulled in what needed to be. I tried some light blade stuff and everything. But realistically, from a creative standpoint, the fiber brushes really gave the quality imagery that we were kind of going from a creative standpoint.
And here's those the star cutouts. So this was the start of that.
So that was a quick test, and that was actually a failed test.
Okay.
So that, like, I knew that I wanted to try to do something. We did I had done some flashlight pops to get flares intentionally. Uh, but I was seeing, like a small little trail from the flashlight from different angles, again, because it's 360. It's a lot easier when you're doing a single angle camera. But when you have to deal with 360 degrees, that's when it gets into something else. So that was a test, and it quickly failed, and I kind of realized where it failed. And so that's when we did the bigger cutout.
All right. And I apologize because I don't have that image, but it's just a big sheet, that the black board with
So
the cutout,
basically,
right?
yeah, so basically I ended up trying so it went from that to cutting out a much larger star. Because when I did that one, the star was way too small.
Right.
It was super, super small, and it just didn't do what I needed to do. And I could even kind of see some of the brown inside that cardboard thing. The concept's is totally fine. Um, but so then I knew I needed to do bigger. So I printed out a star as big as I possibly could. And then the next step was like a pizza box.
Right.
Just for concept testing. Why even bother with anything heavy duty if it's proof of concept? So the pizza box, that gave me a size that I was totally cool with. So then I took that same star, but also with the pizza box, you could kind of see the edges when doing the fiber optic tool. So when that comes into play, that's when it turned into, I made a little round outline for the star. So that way, okay, if I'm gonna see an edge, let it be an intentional edge. So you make a star, you have it be inside the circle, and that way it could be intentional. And so that's how we got the kind of like circle things that go around the the star
Well,
pattern that we
that
made the
bleed off of
stencil.
the light looks awesome. It's like it just created this really unique flare, but yeah, really,
Yeah.
really cool.
So the flaring with that, that's in addition to the the fiber optic brush. So that's a bare flashlight being lined up in the center of the stencil,
Right.
and a quick pop of the flash with that. And so basically what we ended up having is we had a star stencil that when the cameras came into view, it would catch that lens flare that would be progressive from the different angles, because we had, on that project, we had 96 cameras. So the round shape of the stars, um, you know, basically we had to have a round exterior shape and then the star cut out in the middle. And that's how we achieve that. And so basically here, and I'll even stop at one point. So
So
how do I?
that's the black fiber optic behind there, right?
Yep. That's a
Yeah,
black fiber
it
optic
is so cool. Just
with,
the
it's
way it
just
bleeds
bare.
off.
It's
Yeah.
just the white. And so that's getting all of this around here. And then each of these little flares is a, when it was in position, you pop the flash inside that. And it's interesting. So I had some consultation and very helpful advice from Hugo Batista. Um, like we were just messaging. I was sending him like, hey, check this out, and he'd give input and maybe try this, try that, all that sort of stuff. And it was immensely, Hugo, thank you so much. Um, and been super helpful to get his input on what to do. And so basically, yeah, each one of these. So I had the stencil on a stand so I could get consistent height. for the thing. I had markings on the floor that, I would have the light brush tool on its lowest intensity, and you'll look at the floor as I'm moving the stand that's holding the stencil from position to position, because that's a whole thing too. Um, because I did one at a time, and good for consistency. And so basically, and the big thing, in addition to everything else, is, as you can see here, in order for the cameras on the front side, like where we're looking at right now, to see any of these stars, you have to be lighting from the back. But not only from the back, you have to be lighting from all angles. Because, like, if you were only lighting on the axis of the stencil, then this right here would be dark, because the fiber optics are not pointing in any direction from it. So in order for me to see this right here, the fiber optic tool had to be pointed on axis of all cameras. So that meant that for the stencil, and that's why some of these little clouds and comedy areas there are so extensive, is that I did basically 3 angles for each front, inside and outside. So I would be on the inside working in the dark. I'd be looking straight on axis, and I'd count to like 5, shaking it around. And then I would be like, okay, diagonal this way, count to 5. Okay, diagonal the other way, count to 5. And then I had to talk myself through the whole thing, because there were so many steps for each of the things. So there's 6 instances of that, 3 on the inside, 3 on the outside, the flashlight pop. You're doing the red glow around the trophy too, logistically. And then of course you have this smoke, the fog machine, and the lighting on the trophy itself, which that was actually the lighting on the trophy I did from a controlled thing, because I wanted very specific light to be consistent. And this was also, I mean, the bottom of this trophy was probably like 5.5, 6 feet in the air. So for me to get at the heights that I would need to do all of this light, I would have need to had ladders in there for it to be consistent from shot to shot to shot. So I rigged lights up in the ceiling. So I'm using like standard lights that I could control with an app, in addition to the light painting tools as well. A
Are
combination of all these things.
are you doing all this on your own, or do you got a team? Like, how many people were involved?
So I had some people helping out. There were a handful of different days of filming the different things, including the single camera stuff. So there was the single camera stuff, and then there was the bullet time stuff and everything. Um, generally it was assisted by like 1 or 2 people at the same time. Um, so teams of 2 or 3 at any given moment, once we're set up with the rig.
And that flare, man, it in motion is just, it's so awesome.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's without it, and that's an interesting thing too. So, when I was doing tests, I actually would have loved a little bit of gradient in here. And when my initial tests, I did less from each vantage, and it didn't blow out as much. But the problem is that when I went to do the ping, when you got to these other angles like here, you would see that hard ping unless you blew it out. So it was a logistical consideration that a part of me, in all of my heart, really wanted to have that dynamic gradient on the edges of the thing as it was kind of fading in and fading out and all that sort of stuff. And it would have been beautiful, but there was no way to marry that with the flare unless I did additional time on that inside to blow that out.
You know what I really love about this is you're like, you say, I don't really light paint too much. And basically, and you're like knocking out all the angles and understanding the light and how it's hitting and what you got to do. So that on its own is super impressive, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, and that's all kind of like the world of bullet time. Everything
Right.
with bullet time is straight up logistics. It's knowing the 360. So even for this, like I knew, so that shot, I'm going to go back to it. this shot, in order to get 6 instances of stars, inside 3 different angles, outside 3 different angles, um, the flare from 6 different angles, and then, the red glow, and that in itself, same thing, right? You can't just light I found that out real quick. You can't just light it from behind looking towards the front, because when you're behind, it disappears. So same thing, like literally I would be on the side in order to get this here. I would be on the far side, be like, okay, this side looking that way, and I would be doing the thing and be like, okay, that side, and then diagonals for everything, and diagonals looking out, and diagonals. It had to be in everywhere, and so you can kind of see it morphing as it circles around. That it's not the same. Like it's got a bit of visceral energy to it,
Right.
because it's not the same, from the front angle red glow. The light that you're seeing there is totally different from the same thing from 180 degrees different, because that was a different path, a different patch of light that was going. So it
Right.
has that visceral energy to it. And just for like, and so this shot itself, in order to execute, the shortest one was maybe 22 minutes and the longest one was 25 minutes. I think this shot itself was 24. Um, in order to, and that includes, just even moving the stencil properly into position on the floor markings in the dark. And it's so funny, by about minute 18 or something, you can see in the dark. Like you kind of
Right.
know where you are. It's insane, because when it's done, to turn it on and get out of the 360, you turn on the lights, your eyes adjust, all that sort of thing. But then you turn the lights off again. And I kind of thought about doing the pirate patch, and okay, I can switch the patch over and I see in the dark and all that sort of thing like they do. But I just, I felt around in the dark with, okay, that's where the stencil is, okay, and make sure I don't be talking myself through it the whole time and everything.
Right. That,
It's what honestly, it is one of the most complicated bullet time. It's not the most cameras I ever shot with, but it is probably the most complicated bullet time shot of my, 10 plus year career of bullet time shooting,
yeah, it's so
just because of
cool.
all those logistics.
It's funny you were saying because here in my studio, so I use my hand. I'm in the dark, obviously,
Yep.
but it's 4 steps against the wall. So I do go 1, 2, drag my hand against the wall 4 steps. I hit a
Right.
table, and I
Right.
position my hand to hit the table at my fourth step, and I
Yep.
take 2 steps to the right, and I'm at my camera. So that's
Yeah,
it's
you know
dark,
where things are. I mean, that was even the thing with the flares. That in itself is finding the right angle, that I knew, okay, so straight horizontal parallel to the floor, you find your center in the stencil just by hand. Parallel to the floor, that's not good. Too high is not good, and then you split the difference. That's how I found it every single time.
right.
Is that I dialed it in to be like, okay, that's there, split the difference. That's my angle. Double check to make sure I'm in the center of the stencil. Bop, quick pop.
Good stuff, man.
And the things that you do in that middle is good. And so this is the 150 millimeter that we're looking at right here. And so that's the obviously it's still the black fiber optic, and use the yellow attachment.
Awesome.
Um
Well,
and so yeah,
let's share
oh,
some other images, and we'll
oh,
I
sure.
got
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here, I'll stop sharing my screen.
all right.
Um, and the other thing that did I? Okay, good. That worked. Um, the other thing too is to have a full blackout environment, because it's all relative, right? If you're doing a blackout environment for 360, yeah, okay, you need to have everything relatively muted. But when you do a 24-minute exposure, there can't be any light. It will burn in. It will show up. Even things that catch reflections. Um, I found out how good my blackout environment was, and I had to be fair, it wasn't perfect from the beginning. I had to hang up a couple additional, black fabrics here and there and everything, just to make sure. But it's pretty solid, honestly. I mean, like 24 minutes. If there's going to be light, you're going to find it.
Right. You know what I love about this, I love seeing professional light painting projects like this. I really do. It's so inspiring seeing what you've created and what you've done with this. You know, from your own experiences, what benefits do you feel light painting has at a professional level creating work like this?
So here's my observation is that I see light painting being incorporated into commercial work more often than not. I work on a lot of jobs that have basically what they call media days. And so there will be station after station after station. I might be the bullet time station. There might be a station with a arm. There might be a step and repeat photo thing. There might be and oftentimes, my buddy was just down in Florida working a thing for, oh, I forget exactly what it was. It's some car racing thing down in Florida. And same thing, they had a media day and they had a station with light painting down there. Um, and so I think it's really cool. I think it's got a place for it for sure because CGI only gets you so far. And I think there's some value. I was talking about this in a totally different type of group and business group and everything, but we were talking about AI, we were talking about CGI, we were talking about all of these different things. And I look at it like this. The low end is always going to be what suffers, but nobody is ever going to go to a five-star restaurant and be okay with like a robot making their meal. The high end, high quality content, the high end quality work. If someone was going to pay, it's not going to be me, but if someone's going to pay $400 for a meal, they want a human that is skilled beyond belief making that thing. And I feel the same way about quality content art. Same thing for, look at commercial production itself, right? Local commercial production itself, um, the low end is always going to suffer. That's where the AI is going to come into play. But do you really think that, like, Formula One is going to use AI? They might use CGI, but they're not going to use AI.
Right.
Is Porsche, is Prada, is, like the only, I don't see them ever really. I think there could be elements of AI that get incorporated, but I think there will always be trained, highly professional, highly skilled professionals working at that top tier level. I think it's always going to be there. I could be wrong. I hope I'm dead by then, by the time I'm wrong. But I don't think I'm going to be wrong. Like, I think that's always going to be the case, just like that $400 meal that some rich person, again, not me, is going to pay for. They're not going to be okay with a robot in the kitchen making that meal. They're not going to do it. It's different. There's something intangible about that quality. There's something real about it. And again, like Dennis said about the about the behind the scenes, that was some of the stuff that we talked about with University of Oklahoma. They wanted to make sure that people didn't just shrug it off as CGI. I'm just like, dude, bring a camera. I'm going to be
Right.
snapping cell phone pictures nonstop. We're going to show them that it's real
Right.
because that's
That's
the
the
cool
thing
thing about this. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying that, that's the thing about nowadays, it's so easy to replicate those things with AI, with, text prompts and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
feel us as light painters have a harder time now, explaining what exactly we're doing when I don't ever want to see it be pushed aside as if it's something that it's not, you know what I mean? Because it's
Show
not
it.
AI, it's not something that's fake. It's literally us creating what we're creating. So,
Show it. It's real.
right.
Show how real it is. That's such a wonderful thing. I mean, like, that's the response. I know I'm jumping a question because it's
No,
one
you're
of the
good.
other
You're good.
things. But the response, I mean, from everybody that I've shown in the film world that knows, that knows me, that knows my work, the bullet time stuff, and I show them, I show them the finished shot, and they're just like, "That's cool," and I say, "That's all in camera." and to see their brain stop, like it's almost incomprehensible, uh, to see and to envision. I'm like the logistics of around it. Like I can look at that shot and understand, like, again, just from the 360 world, the bullet time stuff that I do, I can look at it and I can analyze it and I can make a plan on how to do that. But a lot of people who don't live in the logistics of bullet time and be able to think in 360 degrees and all those different vantages and what you need to do. And that was part of the thing about, we tried a bunch of the different tools. I got glitter sticks. Um, I got the LED whip. I got a bunch of tools from light painting brushes, and we tried a bunch of things. But part of it has to do with the frame. How much freedom do you have? How much freedom of movement do you have? And that's really where the fiber optics for this specific project shined. I initially started at like 18 millimeters instead of 41 millimeters, and I was loving the glitter sticks. In 360, I was doing some cool stuff, but the problem was, for me and my skill level and the confines of the area that I was working with, the glitter sticks worked best when I was standing in the middle. Um, when you're talking about a 360-degree shot. But the problem when you have a stack of apple boxes and a trophy on side, I don't get to stand in the middle.
Right.
And so that just really didn't, and even just the framing, at 150 millimeters, you saw like that tight shot was literally what, maybe 4 to 6 inches tall. That's not a lot of room for a glitter stick to move around. So okay, what can we do? And depth of field factors in all of these sort of things. That Goodness, I really hope that the next future projects will have an even greater budget, that I can bring in some pros to show everyone how it's done in a 360 as well, because I did the best that I could with the time and the budget and everything. But man, oof, what I wouldn't give to have you guys in there with me. It'd be
Oh,
amazing.
I'm game. I
You're
want to come
welcome.
here.
You are
Yeah,
more than welcome. I'd
absolutely.
love for everybody to come.
Hey, Mitch, what was the overall response from the University of Oklahoma? Have they seen a lot of this? Have you finalized the production of everything and they've seen it? Uh,
Yeah, so
what was their
okay.
response?
So interestingly enough, so they did an edit, a quick edit, so like less than a week. They did an edit that involved footage of the athletes in the competitions and some other content. They used some of the single camera stuff that we show that we um played today and everything too. And they did an edit, but they also gave the green light for me to do my own edit to do. So they have yet to see some of the final content that will be produced on my end and everything like that. But they had a ceremony, a banner raising. So they get a banner every year that they win the competition. So they raised it. They played their edit. The crowd, they actually sent me a video of the jumbotron that they played in their stadium and everything.
Awesome.
And at the end of the thing, you could hear the crowd, applauding and cheering and roaring and all that sort of stuff, and that was great. I got some lovely, kind words that I'll put on my website. Case study, good stuff. From my contact at University of Oklahoma, and like I said, and then everybody else in the film production world that has seen it has just been like, they're always just like, "Oh, yeah," like the quick glance, "Oh, yeah, that's cool." And then when you tell them that it's all in camera and they're not expecting that, that's when you can, like, it's like an engine block that seizes.
Right.
Like, it's trying to do it and they just can't get, like, it just stops. Their brain stops to wrap their head around those 6 stars, the flares, everything. It's all in camera. It's all one take. Took 24 minutes. And just to be like, "What the heck? What are you doing?" It's insane.
It really is. It's awesome stuff, man. With that, what would you tell someone, or even what would be your best advice for others wanting to pursue, you know, either bullet time or professional light painting projects such as this, like you did for the University of Oklahoma here.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of anything, here's my take on anything specialty. Anything specialty. I mean, like, I guess just anything in general, from a commercial aspect. The two biggest things that I would say for anyone trying to work and get commercial work is to network. Who you know is massively huge. Um, and just connect with people, right? You know, be a human. Don't sell, network. Be a human. Um, connect with people and then also be visible. Have your stuff seen. Like honestly, Jason, you know, when I started doing this project, you know, I looked up the I was like that like I looked on the light painting brushes thing. I'm just like, all right, I need to order some tools. Okay, I got some tools. All right, there's some videos. Oh, hey, here's this. Oh, look at that. So I started following you. I didn't even bother trying to friend you or anything. I'm just like, he doesn't know me. It's okay. I'm just like, I'm gonna like his stuff every once in a while, and it's applicable, I'll comment or whatever, all that sort of thing. But you ask engaging questions. Hey, what are you doing? Blah blah blah, and I, type a little comment and everything. And we end up connecting. It's organic. It's real. It
Absolutely.
wasn't pushed. I wasn't selling anything. You weren't selling anything. The real connections in life will happen. And realistically, but the other thing too is to be visible. One of the things that I need to do, I have a certain personality. I'm actually not prone to social media, and I need to hire someone to do social media for me. Because I just get turned off by all the toxic humans that are on there. I mean, I know there's lots of good people, but the negativity makes me want to stop, and I do. I have so many other things that doesn't need to stop that I'm just like, whatever. But honestly, quite honestly, I'd probably even have a better career if I was just constantly doing the social stuff. There's good value in it because a lot of it is be seen, put your work out there, get it out there, all that sort of stuff. And I will be rebooting my socials and all that sort of stuff. I have tons of content. I mean, even just from this project, right? We have so many behind the scenes of this content. Just to say, okay, here's this. But there are plenty of a lot of the commercial work. The director might be poking around, might be seeing something, might be shared by someone and it comes across the right face, all that sort of thing. If you're not putting your content out there, that's not going to happen. Luckily for me, with the bullet time world, that world is so small that usually, quite honestly, that stuff, they're doing a Google search, they're finding me. They're finding Orbital EXP. They're finding that website. And that website, I don't do the socials, but that website's up to date.
Right.
There's a lot of content on there. They can see content from all of these different projects that I've done and say, okay, cool. Their socials aren't active, but this company is. And that sort of thing. But man, I'll tell you, if I was in a more crowded niche, uh, I wouldn't be able to get away. I don't think I would be able to get away with just having a website. I think
Right.
I would really need that social content out there and it's not really, like Dennis said, it's not really about getting 10 million followers or anything out there, but have the ability to be seen and have content perhaps that doesn't look like everybody else's. Right?
Well,
Everybody starts somewhere.
also a big part of being seen too is how you carry yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You engage with people, and from that engagement, comes opportunities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
important too.
And because quite realistically, and I didn't do any research or anything, but realistically, I'd never seen anything bullet time light painting like what we did. Like I've seen some things and everything like that, but especially with the stars and everything, and that was the whole thing. So the 6 stars, as far as their concept, they wanted something. Okay, we have 6 winds. We want to have 6 something. And we tried a bunch of different things to see what would work. We tried the things with light blades and everything. And I was just like, realistically, in order to have in order to have 6 of something for this project in a 360, um, and not have it look like a total mess, it needed structure. And that's where because I tried things with that, like, cause I did stuff where it's just like, I took like a light blade and I'm just like, let me start from up here and pull it down. And their colors are red and white. And that's why we went with the red and white for what we worked with on the trophy. Um, but realistically, I was just like, I would need to build something so I could have those pull downs be a matching arc. I want them to be at the exact same height. I want that angle to be exactly the same. And it was on the fly, we were trying different things out and it just wasn't going to work any other way. A lot of the imagery that you see, like like the Roshan type of stuff where the light blading kind of fluttering around and stuff. We tried some things and it didn't have the structure that this type of thing needed to fly. I think the fiber brush that kind of dragged worked great for the tight shot, but even with that, it didn't work on the wide. Not the way that not the same way that we were doing it at 150 millimeters. So your framing um comes into such play, but that, like, what works at 150 millimeters doesn't work at 41.
Absolutely.
It's a
And,
whole thing.
and to hit on that too, that's why I love the Sigma 2470 because I can I shoot at different
Yeah.
focal lengths, and
Yeah.
just for that you get different elements, different dimensions, lighting's different. You can move at different speeds, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
changing your focal length can change tremendously the outcome of an image so much.
So huge. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's so much that factors into that. And oh, and one of the other things logistically for this thing and the 360 and the blackout with a 24-minute shot, waving the light planing tools around too. I said, listen, I'm not taking any chances with this. These cameras have to be pointed up so that the bottom of the frame does not see the cameras. With 360 degrees, I'm not taking any for that kind of exposure. It would be one thing if it was a 30-second exposure. Okay, cool. We're gonna shoot it like an F11, F16, F22, and we'll take that chance. But for 24 minutes, absolutely not. So that's all the cameras were tilted up so that the only thing that was seeing was the blackout environment. I
awesome.
wasn't gonna take any chances of seeing the lenses, or any of the rig or anything like that. I could almost guarantee it would have been seen.
Well, Mitch, man, it's so fascinating, so awesome. What you did, man, super professional, and I love it. I'm gonna go back to what you said earlier. I don't like paint that much, but then you knock something like this out, man. So it's super cool, and I just very inspiring, and just want to thank you for being with us this evening and sharing this project.
Thanks
Uh,
for having me.
how do we follow along with you? What's the best way? I know you said you're not on socials too much, but
Well, so they do
what's the best
exist.
way to keep up with you?
Yeah, they do exist, and those channels will be just they will resume the content. So all the socials and the website and everything, it's all Orbital EXP.
Awesome.
So that's the bullet time content, and so the light painting stuff, everything that I really do is bullet time. Um, and so yeah, orbitalexp.com, and then on the socials, Orbital EXP. Um,
Can I come
and
to Philadelphia and play?
you I got 96 cameras set up right now
Oh
in my
man, I'm on my
studio.
way this weekend.
You are more than welcome.
Yeah, that sounds fun there, man. But Mitch, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
Mitch, I just want to say I'm super impressed with that work too. That's all I want to say. It is
Thanks
so
so much.
freaking impressive, man. I didn't even understand it was one exposure. I even thought it was layered.
Yeah, no
Oh, that's nice.
compositing, one exposure, 24 minutes is the big one. And thanks to you and for making these. I mean, like when I was working with these tools and the what was capable and what was able, to have that be to be able to press a button and in less than a week for delivery time to receive it and be like, hey, that's what that does. Okay, that's what this does. Okay, cool. And to not be able to, back in the day, and when I first did my first things, I was buying Christmas lights and I was, I didn't want to pay the money for the, like, I think Roshan had just released the light blades and stuff. I'm just like, I'm going to save money. And instead, I'm going to spend 7 years of my life making things with not 7 years, but it took more time. I should have just paid him the money. In reality, but but I made my own things with plexiglass, and now just to be able to have that stuff be accessible and the filter stuff and everything, it's just absolutely wonderful to have access to that, and the resources as well, the tutorials that you did. I mean, literally, I was watching you I'm telling you, I'm not a light painter. I'm telling you. I was watching your tutorials. I was just like, I'm like leaning in. I'm just like, oh, that's okay. He's shaking it around. Okay. And your narration and everything, like really explaining it, I'm just like, all right, that's cool. Like, cause it gave me ideas on what I could try. Even your stencil work. If you hadn't done stencil work, I don't think we would have gotten that shot. That was kind of like, we did all of these other things that were just kind of like, that's okay. We did some waves and stuff like that. And it's nice. And they were happy with it. Did the glows. But if it weren't for your stencil work and that content, I wouldn't have had that idea. Who thinks of that? You madman. What are you doing?
Thank you.
And just like and it worked, and I'm glad that I could do in 360, and I'm glad that it wasn't exactly what you do, right? It was similar to what you do. It was inspired by what you do, but I'm glad that I wasn't just doing something that I'd seen everywhere else.
Man, that's one of the most beautiful things about light painting. It's flattering to see people imitate your work, but man, I can't tell. I can look at so many images and show you bits and pieces in that image, and
Yeah.
how it reflects to someone who's inspired me, or I'm imitating someone, but
Yeah.
you're not going to see it directly, but yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Mitch, thank you so much, man. Thank you again. Really appreciate you being here and talking with us.
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
Mitch.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm gonna do some shout outs real quick. Let me pull this up. The first person I want to shout out though is Mr. Duncan. This guy, he hasn't missed, and I say this every time, hasn't missed an LPV live, not once. And if I'm doing this right, it's 3 a.m. over there right now, and he jumped in here about 10 minutes ago. So Duncan, thanks for being here, man.
No problem, mate.
He hasn't missed a single one. He's been at everyone. So thank you, man. Really appreciate you. All right, so let's do a couple shout outs, and let me move this over here. Jill, loving the rotations that we're getting in the group. Just keep them coming. Just love this right here. It just stood out to me. Love that blue. So wanted to shout you out, Jill. Thank you for sharing with us. And Debbie, really cool. The glitter stick there, that purple and that yellow, great combination. I'm all about trying to mix different color hues, and purple and yellow is one of my favorites. It's such a great combo. Roy, just love this. I'm assuming this is the fiber whip there. Just love this, how you inverted the top there, and really cool image. Peter, I wanted to shout you out, man. This is what I love about this. I think this is one of the best ones you've done as far as the symmetry. And I need to reach out to him and see if he's given this particular technique that he's doing, if he's named it. I don't know if he's got a name for it. I'd love to ask him about that, and see what you call these. And Peter, I want to shout you out again. That fiber stuff you did with the glass ball was really cool. There was a whole bunch of them. But this one just stood out to me, just the simplicity of it. Just the glass ball there with a quick, fiber swipe there. Just really cool image. So thanks for all the work you do. You're always putting so much great work in the group. So we definitely appreciate that. Jill, wanted to shout you out again. This beautiful rotation, just great color. Loved everything about this. I am not pronouncing this guy's name, but this is super, super cool. If it's a guy, I'm assuming it's a guy, but yeah, just really cool rotation. Wanted to share that with everybody. Christina, she's still going with these, man, and they just keep getting better. It's such a beautiful creation, and the colors are getting, so much better, and there's so much vibrancy there, and it's completely uniquely yours, that's what's so awesome about it. Shawnee, I wanted to shout you out because we were talking about imitation, and Ian with the serpents, and then to see somebody else do that and give their interpretation of it and put it in a, I'm assuming some kind of water drainage system there, but really cool image. So wanted to shout you out. Robert, so cool story. So I was here in my studio and I was doing some light painting, and it's actually the one that I got, as my background. And he had shared these images just as I had shared it. And I just thought it was so cool how we were on the same page. We were like connected, and there's so many similarities to the work that we were doing at the same exact time. And we literally finished up, texted one another at the same time, posted these at the same time. Our worlds were aligned this night, and it was really cool. So, but great work, man. Keep up all the great work that you do. Love seeing it. Speaking of Ian, just doing the Aaron Simmons backdrop technique, really cool. Just wanted to shout you out for that. And then Noah, really cool blade work. Love the effect there, just really cool. And the lighting is great on the bike, and wanted to shout you out. And Johnny, you still here, Johnny? Did Johnny take off? I think Johnny had something he wanted to talk about, but
He's in here. I see him.
he might have ran off. But yeah, thank you all. I want to, thank everybody for being here. And again, want to thank Mitch Martinez. Thank you so much for that great presentation of the project you're doing. Shout out Dennis Smith. That Formula One stuff is just super cool. Great images. What a great project to be involved with. So with that, if Johnny don't come back.
Oh, I'm here, but that's all right.
Are you good, man? You want to bring anything up?
No, I had to reboot my system and my mic didn't light back up when I did. That's why I went mute on you. I didn't realize it. But no, I was just going to mention the Eclipse meetup next month. We've actually had a bit of a change of venue. We're going to do a car show that Saturday.
You going to get a Formula One car?
Oh, I actually have a 1930s Model A and a 46 Buick or a Plymouth Deluxe. And then if any of the participants want to make a connection with some of the hot rodders and get them to bring their cars back, we're going to do that too.
That's going to be great, man.
It'll be fun. It's going to be a fun weekend. Other than it's just going to be very busy.
Right.
That it says, I imagine it's going to be very hectic, but it'll be fun. It'll be good memories.
Post some stuff about that, in the group again, just update it with the stuff you got going on, with the car show and all that too. So,
Already.
But with that, Jason, you got anything?
Nope. Just want to say thank you very much. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Johnny. Everybody if anybody's interested in that Eclipse meetup, Johnny's got a lot of cool stuff going on. So please do hit him up on Facebook, Instagram, probably Facebook's better. But hit Johnny up if anybody's interested in that Eclipse meetup.
All right. Well, that's all I got. So until next month in March, we'll be back. So again, thank you all for being here.